When Cassie Ventura filed her lawsuit against Diddy, many speculated it was simply a cash grab due to the swift settlement between the two. However, newly released CCTV footage showing Diddy assaulting Cassie in a hotel has made it clear that the allegations were indeed true.
So when you say time has run out, is this referring to the statute of limitations? And can you explain what this is?
Statute of limitations are laws that prevent people from being prosecuted for certain crimes past a certain period. So there are some crimes such as murder that there is no statute of limitations for, and also rape, for example, in federal court, and other sexual assaults, there's no statute of limitations. The reason that statute of limitations exists is because if you're charged with something that happened 10, 15 years ago, a lot of the witnesses can no longer be located and records become unavailable. And I've defended people who've been accused of things that happened in the 1980s. So a lot of states have something where they had a look back period. So you could bring civil sexual assault charges that happened many, many years ago. And I've defended individuals accused of civil sexual assault that happened in the 1980s, for example. And a lot of the records that would have been truly beneficial to the client were no longer in existence. People's memories are much more foggy of the exact details of what occurred. And also key witnesses sadly have passed away.
The cases that are being brought against Diddy are civil rather than criminal. What's the difference between the two?
Criminal cases are prosecuted by the state, so each individual state, or the U.S. government if you're in federal court, while civil cases generally involve private parties. The standard for the burden of proof is different. So it's lower when it comes to civil cases. And a classic example of this is O.J. Simpson was tried for the murder of Nicole Brown Simpson, and he was found not guilty, but then there was a civil case brought against him by her family members, and he was found guilty there. So the burden of proof is lower in civil cases. In criminal cases, the burden of proof is beyond a reasonable doubt, which is the highest possible standard here in the United States. And in civil cases, it's typically preponderance of evidence, which is a lower bar. So it's a lot easier to be found guilty when you're charged with a civil charge or something that's analogous to a crime.
The fact that Diddy wasted no time releasing a half-hearted apology video was a clear indication that he knew how wrong his actions were from the start.
It's so difficult to reflect on the darkest times in your life. Sometimes you got to do that. I was fucked up. I hit rock bottom, but I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now. I went and I sought out professional help. I had to go into therapy. I'm going to rehab. Had to ask God for his mercy and grace. I'm so sorry. But I'm committed to be a better man each and every day. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm truly sorry.
Producer Lil Rod, whose given name is Rodney Jones, has now accused Sean Diddy Combs of operating a racketeering enterprise, groping him, forcing him to engage in sexual acts with sex workers, and lacing alcohol for the guests in his home, including underage girls. There's a 73-page complaint, ladies and gentlemen. Quote, throughout his time with Mr. Combs, Mr. Jones witnessed, experienced, and endured many things that went far beyond his role as a producer on the Love album. Mr. Combs required Mr. Jones to record him constantly. As a result, Mr. Jones has secured, hear this, hundreds of hours of footage and audio records of Mr. Combs, his staff, and his guests engaging in serious illegal activity, end quote. The lawsuit not only names Diddy as the defendant, but also his 30-year-old son, Justin Combs. Lil Rod claims that Diddy forced him to work in the bathroom as Diddy showered, and that Diddy engaged in constant, unsolicited, and unauthorized groping and touching of his Lil Rod also accused Diddy of drugging him. This happened, according to the lawsuit, February 2023, when he woke up unclothed, disoriented, and in a bed with Diddy and two sex workers. The lawsuit accuses Coram of helping Diddy, quote, to groom him being Lil Rod, into accepting a homosexual relationship. Mr. Jones was terrified of Mr. Combs. He felt like he could not tell him no. Mr. Combs consistently made it clear that he has immense power in the music industry and with law enforcement.
So he's declaring that he has personal knowledge of the facts set forth within. He knows to be true and correct, and if called upon to testify as witness, I could and would competently testify thereto. From September 22 to November 23, he produced 9 songs on his Love album, Diddy's Love album, as well as playing instruments. He worked at the offices. He lived with Combs for months at a time, spending holidays, missing major events. He was very demanding, would often deny requests to go home. Diddy was a tough boss. I lived at his residence in LA, New York, and Miami. I also spent several weeks on a yacht he rented in St. Martin and Virgin Islands. While living with and working with Mr. Combs, I witnessed and experienced and endured many things that went far beyond my role as a producer on the Love album. This is the key. I have hundreds of hours of video and audio recordings and photos of incidents that I detail in my first and proposed Second Amendment complaints. So he's basically saying, this is real. Stop saying it's not. Stop saying we're being sloppy. We're just trying to do it. This is not just accusations. We have proof. So yeah, no joke. Mr. Combs required that I record him constantly. He did not like to repeat himself, and I quickly learned that from observing him lose his temper with his staff and family if they failed to remember something he said a day or two prior. Several occasions, Mr. Combs took my cell phone and began recording himself.
As if the sex trafficking allegations weren't enough, Diddy is now being bombarded with one lawsuit after another, barely having time to address the first one. The most shocking of these is the explosive lawsuit from Rodney Laya Jones.
6, 2023, there was a complaint filed in the Southern District of New York by a Jane Doe. She filed this against Sean Combs, Harvey Pierre, a third assailant, Daddy's House Recordings, Inc., and Bad Boys Entertainment Holdings, Inc. Jane Doe, who was currently around 37 or 38 years old right now, was 17 and in the 11th grade back when these events first happened in 2003. During that time, Miss Doe met Mr. Pierre and a third assailant in a lounge in the Detroit, Michigan area. While at that lounge, Mr. Pierre insisted he was best friends with Mr. Combs and even called Mr. Combs with Miss Doe. Mr. Combs convinced Miss Doe, who was half his age at the time, to accompany Mr. Pierre and a third assailant on a private jet to come to his studio in New York City. Before they left for the private jet, Mr. Pierre smoked crack cocaine in a bathroom at the lounge, in which he also sexually assaulted Miss Doe by forcing her to give him oral sex. And she's expressing that she's using the pseudonym third assailant because she does not currently know the third assailant's name. However, once that's produced during discovery, she does plan to amend the complaint and produce his name. Mr. Pierre, third assailant, and another gentleman then escorted the high schooler to a private jet, which flew them to Teterboro, New Jersey. There were SUVs awaiting the group at Teterboro, and the 4 of them were driven to Daddy's House Recording Studios, a studio famously owned and operated by Mr. Combs and Bad Boy. While at the studio, Mr. Combs and his associates, including Mr. Pierre, piled Miss Doe with drugs and alcohol. As the night wore on, the 17-year-old Miss Doe became more and more inebriated, eventually to the point that she could not possibly have considered to have sex with anyone, much less someone twice her age. While at the studio, Miss Doe was gang by Mr. Combs, the third assailant, and Mr. Pierre in that order. While Mr. Combs was Miss Doe, he complained that he could not get off unless she pinched his nipples as hard as she could. Mr. Combs then watched on as a third assailant, who Miss Doe has not even realized had begun to have sex with her, Miss Doe as she told him to stop. After third assailant was finished, Mr. Pierre took his turn at Miss Doe and then violently forced her to give him oral sex, during which Miss Doe was choking and struggling to breathe. When Mr. Pierre finished, he left Miss Doe in the bathroom alone. Miss Doe fell into the fetal position and lay on the floor. Her vagina was in pain. Finally, after a period of time, Miss Doe regained her bearings. However, she could barely stand up following the gang rape and had to be helped to walk out of the building and back into a car. She was taken back to an airport and flown back to Michigan. However, she had very limited recollection of her transport home and only remembers being in a car sometime early in the morning. Unlike many victims who have come forward after decades, Miss Doe can prove that she not only met Mr. Combs on the night in question, but was in the studio in New York City with him on that night. Remember, when viewing these, Miss Doe was only 17 years old. Miss Doe has lived with the memories of this fateful night for 20 years, during which time she suffered extreme emotional distress that has impacted nearly every aspect of her life and personal relationships.
Following Cassie's lawsuit, numerous victims found the courage to come forward with their own accusations against Diddy. The first was Jane Doe, who alleged that Diddy not only drugged and sexually assaulted her, but also passed her around to his friends.
Sean Diddy Combs is firing back. On Friday, Diddy's legal team filed a motion to dismiss some of the claims from a lawsuit filed by Joy Dickerson Neal in November, accusing the music mogul of R-ing her as a then college student in 1991. His legal team is arguing that some of the claims were brought under laws that didn't exist and against companies that were not formed at the time of the alleged incident, according to the documents obtained by U.S. Today. U.S. Today reached out to the Dickerson Neal's lawyer for comment. So Dickerson Neal filed her complaint in November in Manhattan Supreme Court, a day before the New York State Adult Survivors Act expiration date, and alleged that she was essayed and abused by Combs and was the victim of revenge porn. I've changed the word for those that may be misunderstanding, according to the court documents obtained by U.S. Today. Diddy's lawyer, Jonathan Davis, argues that the ASA does not permit Dickerson Neal to revive claims under statutes that did not exist, including her claims of trafficking and revenge porn. The new filing later states that the Bad Boy Entertainment, Bad Boy Records, and Combs Enterprises, also listed as defendants in the suit, didn't exist when the incident allegedly occurred, and no allegations of wrongdoing are pled against them, concluding that Dickerson Neal's claims against the companies fail as a matter of law. Combs has denied Dickerson Neal's allegations, claiming the incident was made up and a money grab.
Then there's Joy Dickerson's lawsuit, which has Diddy particularly worried. He's reportedly instructed his legal team to do everything in their power to have the case quietly dismissed as quickly as possible.
While on a school break from the holidays in January of 1991, Dickerson Neal, who was a college student at Syracuse University at the time, reluctantly agreed to have dinner with Combs, the suit said. During their date, Combs had intentionally apparently laced Dickerson Neal's food or drink, resulting in her being in a physical state where she could not independently stand or walk, the suit alleges. Combs allegedly spiked her drink when Dickerson Neal left it unattended to use the restroom, the suit read. In Dickerson Neal's filing last year, she claimed Combs videotaped the 1991 incident and distributed the tape to others in the music industry. This caused severe harm to Dickerson Neal's reputation, career prospects, and emotional well-being, according to her attorney, Jonathan Goldchurch, said in a news release sent to U.S. Today at the time. Dickerson has demanded a trial by jury.
But Dickerson's legal team is trying their best to fight back and get Diddy convicted because what he did to her is horrifying and disturbing.
Enough is enough, the all-cap statement began. For the last couple of weeks, I have sat silently and watched people try to assassinate my character, destroy my reputation and my legacy. Sickening accusations have been made against me by individuals looking for a quick payday. Let me be absolutely clear, he continued. I did not do any of the awful things being alleged. I will fight for my name, my family, and for the truth. Sean Diddy Combs.
However, Dickerson's legal team is determined to fight back and seek justice, as the actions Diddy committed against her are both horrifying and deeply disturbing.
When we spoke the other night, you said that things had gotten so serious that you became pregnant. Not once, but twice, correct?
Yes.
Okay. When was the first time you became pregnant with Diddy's child?
The first time was October 2014.
Okay. So this was like, what, a year after?
No, not a year, but because I met him in February and then I got pregnant in October.
Oh, so the same year.
The same year.
Okay.
Well, I told him and he was like, you're going to get an abortion, right? And then I was like, I don't know. I don't know yet. And then he offered me $50,000 to get rid of it, but I turned it down because I just loved him, and I was like trying to prove that I wasn't the girl that was wanted him for money. Okay. I just care about him. The first 3.5 years he was like mean to me.
So when you say mean, describe it.
He was abusive. He was like always belittling me and always like he was like mentally, emotionally, and physically abusing me.
Did he?
Mm-hmm.
It's not the first time we've heard that.
Mm-hmm.
There was an incident, of course, with Cassie, where reporters are saying that the police were called because they got into an altercation. I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. Tell me some of the things that he would say to you.
He would always compare me to Cassie and tell me that I'm the bad one and she's the good one.
And he was with both of you guys at the same time?
Yeah. He would call me a hoe every single day.
A hoe?
Yeah.
Why would he call you? Not that he had a reason, but like, in his mind, what do you think prompted him to call you a hoe?
Thinking back now, I think he did it because he wanted me to feel low about myself, like, so that I stick around him, because like no one would I don't know, I just feel like he'd try to I was naive and young when I met him, so I feel like he tried to take advantage of that and manipulate me.
Obviously you terminated baby one because you loved him. How long after you guys started dating is when did the physical abuse start?
The first time it ever happened, which was not even like that long into the relationship, because I met him in February, and then it was probably like the beginning of May, because we were at Meek's Mill's birthday.
Okay.
He had like a mansion party, and we went, but while we were there, I was sitting here, and then Puff, and then Meek, but I was like covered with like a stand or something, like probably says like happy birthday Meek or something like that, but it's like a little stand that like was covering me, because there was like a lot of cameras and stuff there. So it was like me, Puff, and Meek. Puff had like leaned forward to like talk to somebody, say hi or whatever, and so I turned over to Meek and I said happy birthday. He put his hand out and then he was like thank you, so I reached his hand and shook it, and as I shook Meek's hand, he turned around and saw it, and he got so mad.
Wow.
And then we probably like stayed like 20 minutes after that happened, and then when we got in the car, he like grabbed my hair. We were in the one of those Escalade trucks.
Okay.
So I was sitting on this side, he was on the other side, and he like grabbed my hair and like cussed me out for doing that. He was like, why the fuck, can I cuss?
Yeah.
Oh, he was like, why the fuck you shaking his hand for, like, just saying stuff like that. I was like
a jealous rage.
Yeah, I was like, I was just saying happy birthday, nothing else. I think he thought I was trying to be sneaky behind his back. Because
As expected, Diddy was unusually quick to deny both allegations against him, raising further suspicions. Interview 7. Countless other victims who haven't filed lawsuits against the rap mogul have still come forward to speak out about the abuse they endured. It's honestly heartbreaking to hear their stories.